The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show. Tonight, my guests are the creators of a new film entitled DEVIANT. It's a psychological thriller, and I have to say that this film was so well done. It really has some amazing writing and acting performances from everyone involved, but the leads, Hank Northrup and Molly B. Thomas, were fantastic. Even my friend Michael Sun Lee made an appearance, which was cool. So with us, we have the co-writer and producer of this project, Ryan Underwood, and co-writer, director, and producer of the film, Leng Ta. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, this film is going to be premiering at the TCL Chinese Theatre on the 10th. So, people out there listening, make sure that you check that out. And, towards the end, we'll get into how they can get tickets to that. But first of all, I have to tell you guys that, the cinematography was amazing, and Chai, just, from the directing aspect of things, talk about the cinematography and the lighting, because I have to say that was the first thing that caught my attention was how well this was shot and lit, and, talk about that process, because it was so amazing.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. So we shot on two Sony FX3 cameras. And we had Nathan Johansson, who's our cinematographer, did an amazing job. We obviously talked through kind of, how we wanted the look of the film to be, and it being a psychological thriller. We had kind of influences from David Fincher was one of our biggest influences, so we're kind of trying to, get that kind of look to it. And because we had such a low budget, we kind of had to get kind of creative with how we set up all of these different shots. So we didn't have a lot of motions in a lot of our shots. But we kind of got creative in how, we wanted to kind of use the camera and like a cinematic language to kind of help tell the story and also reveal things about the characters and their connections with each other as well. And so, one of the things that we discussed as we were kind of designing all of the shots were like, how do we use the camera? How do we use the lighting to kind of like inform what's going on? So, without giving too much away, we start with the characters in a lot of single shots where like there's, you kind of see them separated. And then also there's a lot of darkness, as well. But then as, the story kind of starts to reveal itself, we start to see the connection. Then we start to use the camera and the camera angles in a way that kind of enhanced, that concept in more, I would say probably more of a subconscious type of way. So, but it was actually, to be honest with you, it was like we were very limited in budget. And so we kind of, had kind of worked with whatever we had at that point. But like I said, I think Nathan did a phenomenal job in like lighting and also like setting up the camera and all that. So,
I mean, direction wise, it was a phenomenal job on your part as well. And, Ryan, I want to turn to you about the writing piece of it as well. So talk about the starting of this project, how it got, built, I guess, from the ground up. And also, another thing that I wanted to bring up and with the writing that I really liked is, you really set the scene. And when you were writing this, because I like Joshua Tree being like a remote area. And that was something that I think kind of led to it as well. But when you were writing this, did you visualize the way the camera was going to, kind of shoot this as you were writing the story?
Yeah, I was going to say this was based on a short that Chai actually did about 10 years ago. So we kind of had the pieces together for a thriller, but we made it really kind of curated towards like nowadays and online dating. And we kind of started with, kind of the struggles of online dating. And then at the time, Zoom calls were really popular on dates. And we kind of had a theme of, you don't really know who people really are sometimes in online dating. And, obviously we took it to an extreme here, but we kind of just followed the characters down a path. And we originally had it where, well, I can't really give too much away, but we kind of changed the story a little bit, but we wanted audiences really to kind of be turned on their heads a little bit and not really know quite who they're with. And that was kind of, the feedback we got from the screenplay, which kind of gave us, I would say, a lot of confidence to make the movie, because the screenplay was responded to really well. People were kind of moved by the story and by the characters.
I got roped in right away. I mean, that was a great hook. Just the way you guys did the beginning. Like I said, I won't give it away for the people that obviously want to see this movie. But the other thing, Chai, going to you again here, talk about being writing a psychological thriller, because I think there are certain elements that, because there's when you write like something that's science fiction based or writing something that's more realistic based, I think personally I like the realistic based storylines, because it's kind of you're playing on people's natural fears sometimes, and sometimes I think that's very effective, especially when you're talking about dating and so forth and Zoom calls. Like we all do it. I mean, we all use the modern technology, and so was that kind of in your mindset when you first of all wrote the short, and then when you wrote this feature as well? I mean, was that part of the mindset, is to try to play on people's natural fears that we encounter every day?
That's a really good question. So, and a lot to unload there and unpack.
Yeah.
So I would say, just first of all, on a baseline, I think Ryan and I are always just drawn to thrillers and kind of horrors, just in general. To your point, like it is sort of a base level thing. It's a primal thing that, just universally, like people kind of just understand and can easily like sort of get into, and it's just like generally accessible. And so like we're big fans of like like Dateline and like 2020 and stuff like that. So that's that's not much of a leap for us to kind of like go there.
Right.
But I think the challenge with like Deviant, though, as you mentioned, I wrote the short. This was back in 2017, I think, and it was just coming off the heels of the Me Too movement.
Sure.
And so when that all happened, I was kind of just shocked, as everybody was. I mean, I wasn't naive in terms of like that it goes on, but I think it was one of the shocking things was just that how prevalent it was, and then who, right? And like these people that you thought that were like, unimpeachable, right? And like
right.
that we found out that had a really dark past. So as I started going down that road, it started to kind of like lenient study it a little bit more, do a little bit more research, and I just found out like just a lot of shocking things, like how prevalent it was. Like I think it was 1 in 6 women in the States have experienced like sexual assault. And it's like 1 in 3 like worldwide.
Yeah.
So as a man, I was just like, oh my God, that's I can't believe like how like that's a lot,
Right. Shocking. Yeah.
So it's a shocking number. And then I started, having conversations with my friends about it too, and my female friends, and then just learning kind of like what they some have experienced sexual assault, some have not, and even the ones that have not, they all kind of live in this world where of just like being in constant fear of the worst thing that can happen to them, Yeah. And it goes back to that whole man versus bear argument. Like women feel safer with a bear around than a man. And so I remember, and I told Ryan this a while ago too, it was just like I had this conversation with a coworker of mine. We were like the last ones working late one night, and we were in like a secure building downtown, and I was like, okay, I'm taking off around 7:30 at night, and she goes, okay, can you lock the door when you leave, right? And I was like, sure, but I was like, but we're in a secure building, I feel like what are you afraid of? And then she said, just being a woman, and I was just like, shocked, and then we kind of like talked about like all the things that could happen. And it was one of these, in my mind, it was just like, it was just so, in my mind, it was like, it was improbable, all the things, right? But to them, it was like a possibility, and that possibility, they had to kind of protect themselves against. So it kind of stemmed from that, and then just going down that road, and then just exploring, like, how do you get, men to kind of understand, because we don't live in those, a lot of men don't live in that sort of fear, right? That women kind of go through. And so then my challenge was like, how do you get a guy to kind of like, understand that, right? And so again, without giving away the film, like, that's kind of the path that we kind of took. And so I felt like that was something that we needed to kind of, that was the challenge of trying to get that point across, but set it in the world of like modern dating. And as you guys said, about how you really don't know people. And then, I think the psychological thrills, suspense, and all that kind of just naturally comes out of that. So
it's you're always thinking about things like that, and like you said, watching Dateline and 2020. I mean, those are things I watch all the time as well, and there's a lot of shocking things that happen in those types of shows. So yeah, I think that this whole thing was just so well put together, and like I said, don't want to give anything away, so let's leave it there on that. But I want to turn to you, Ryan, on this, because you're from Indiana originally, and moving out to LA. Obviously, it's culture shock, I guess. Because I was in the same situation. Being from the Midwest and going to the big city in New York City, and so how was that for you? I mean, moving from Indiana to LA, how has that been for you? I mean, just curious.
I mean, I've been out here 16 years, and I kind of did the classic, I wrote a screenplay in college, and I finished it. It wasn't very good, but I finished it. And I remember I had this confidence. I was like, okay, I finished the screenplay. I always enjoyed creative writing, and I loved movies growing up. And I always knew I wanted to be a writer in some way, but I didn't know like in what capacity. So once I finished this screenplay, I moved out to LA kind of a little bit on a whim. I knew my brother was going to be coming out a couple of months later, and I kind of had a little safety there. But yeah, I mean, I worked in a completely different industry. I worked for Enterprise, and I met a lot of friends, but I met Chai within the first like 3 months of being out here. And we quickly wrote a couple shorts, and, he's kind of the reason I started, actually doing this kind of writing. And then he directed the shorts, and we carried on from there. But just living in LA in general, I mean, I have a completely separate life of business and all that. And then I have my passion, which is more than just a passion now. Yeah. And yeah, really, it's been really a blessing to do that for sure. And I do my own screenwriting and stuff too, and kind of have that on the side. But yeah, it's culture wise, I think I still have that. Like someone told me, don't lose your soul when you come to LA, like keep your morals and stuff like that. And I definitely have. So yeah.
Well, that's good.
Experience.
Yeah, I was just curious, just somebody similar, like I said, because I have my own stories on that, because I have a day career as well, and do this on, on the side. Yeah. But, also Chai, with you, I wanted to ask you about, because I've talked to, Michael's son Lee, who was in this film as well. But, I wanted to ask you about the Asian representation in films, and has it gotten to the point where, there's more representation? Because it's certainly not where it should be yet, but is it are you seeing more of a trend that way, where some of the films that have been super popular, I mean, have Asian representation? So what are your thoughts on that, and is it where we need to be, or we still have a long way to go?
I think we've come a long way, and I think it's as I've kind of been, keeping an eye on industry, like I see it kind of coming in like sort of waves, and then it kind of just calms down a bit, and then maybe there's another big wave that comes along. And so like, but it's definitely encouraging, kind of seeing, where it's sort of trending at this point. And I remember when I was a kid and I was watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
And I grew up on, I love Ang Lee. Like, he was a great filmmaker. And but he's always, mostly just been doing like indie, foreign films, foreign for us.
Yeah.
And but then when Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I grew up on those kind of movies too. And when that released and it became such a huge success, I was floored. I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe like a movie like that had no, big stars, or particularly like, American, stars. And they're Chinese stars, but they're, not really well known here. Right. But how that kind of broke through, and like, it wasn't about just like oh, you need to have like a bankable, white star that, to open a movie. It was a movie that, kind of people didn't know anything about. The culture, maybe a lot of people didn't, weren't familiar with. But, the movie was so well done, so beautiful, like it's timeless. And that it just broke through. And I was like, wow, that was the first sort of, for me, like just seeing that sort of, level of success with Asians and in the industry. And then, as I said, like I think we see it in waves. There's the Crazy Rich Asian that's came out that was, widely successful. And
Right.
even now, I think like, I think K-pop Demon Hunter, right? I think
Yeah.
that's like one
Yeah.
of the biggest movies right ever right now.
Or Squid Games. I mean, there's a lot of great,
Good games,
yeah.
you're right. Yeah. So like, and then, so I think I feel like there's there's waves that kind of come, and I
Yeah.
think we're kind of trending in the right direction, I think. But also, like to your point, I think we are still a ways away. So
Yeah, no, that's we in our household we watch a lot of Korean movies and Korean TV shows, and we absolutely love that whole genre of film, and so that's why I wanted to ask you that, because like I said, Michael Sunlee and I talked about this one time, and I think that is getting better, but again, maybe a ways away. So, but Ryan, I wanted to ask you, it's kind of speaking of that, because I know evolution wise of the film industry. You see a lot of things moving out of LA to like Atlanta, let's say, or New Orleans, and some of these, places that aren't in LA. And do you find that yourself since COVID, that things are kind of moving away a little bit? I mean, obviously they're always going to be, and LA is always going to have obviously the main part of the industry, but do you find a lot of projects are moving out east, I guess, and or to Canada?
Yeah, I mean, I know this because my brother works in visual effects, and his industry has been impacted, widely and stuff. And they're basically on 1099 basis or working more independent stuff, and it's really rocked the industry in that way. I don't really have. I mean, it's not changing my mindset on making movies in LA, but I do know that it's just changing a ton. Like LA is not what it used to be in that way. I mean, I know I have a buddy that moved to Atlanta like 10 years ago, and he's, since kind of making it as an actor, and it seems like it's not just moved to Hollywood anymore. But
yeah, right.
It didn't affect Chai and I making our movie. I mean, we had some really good breaks, I would say. This was, about 2 years ago, because there were people out of work. Yeah. And I think we got some breaks and some really high quality people that maybe we wouldn't have had access to, if the industry was what it was. So
I think we made this, we started production on actually it was during this strike.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And, but we got an exception, from SAG to actually continue with our project. But to Ryan's point, yeah, I think we were lucky. We were able to snag a lot of talent that based on our budget, maybe we wouldn't have otherwise. So I think we were really fortunate in that respect.
Yeah, and to go along with that, Dave, we were I was kind of the point person with SAG, and we were told at one point that it was going to be like, I think like 2 months or something before we were even approved. And I remember sitting there and I wrote this like very, passionate email to the SAG person, and like 2 days later we got approved. It was like, okay. I remember where I was, and I was with a buddy, and it was like, oh my gosh, we can actually do this. I was like, okay, maybe I should take that medical device job in my industry.
Right. And,
we were kind of on hold, and then, it was definitely a blessing. So
yeah, for sure. Chai, what about the audition process to get your actors? I mean, how did that go for you, and what was that process like? Obviously during the strike, you just kind of mentioned it somewhat, but how was the audition process, and how many people did you audition for these roles?
It was quite the experience for me and Ryan. So like as I said, I think because of the strike, we got a lot of interest in our project. So we had over 14,000 submissions coming in for our little film. And so and we also had some names as well that were interested in our film as well. So like Ryan and I were just interested in, when we wrote the script, we weren't really thinking about anyone in particular for any of the roles. We weren't thinking about, what race or anything like that for the roles. We were just interested in like who are the best, people that for these characters.
Yeah.
And so I think the process, Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it probably took us like a month or something.
It's about 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went down, we went through, I think most of the submissions, and then kind of like watched, reels, and then we invited, I can't remember how many the first round was, but it was a lot. And so we watched a lot of self-tape, like first round audition tapes, and then we kind of I think we had a couple rounds through the process, and then we just rolled it down to like who we thought that were the best, and then brought them in for a live audition. Sorry, a live. But yeah,
fourth round was live. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had a great, casting director as well, that helped us through that process. So yeah, it was a great process to kind of just like go through all of that. It was exciting to kind of just see, an actor kind of take what you wrote down, the character that you've been thinking about for like years. And then, just seeing how they kind of interpret it and
bring it to life. Yeah.
Bring it to life, and then seeing, in action. And then, so for me, it was really thrilling to kind of like see it for the first time. And then obviously getting to kind of work with them and seeing if they can, kind of take notes and all that. And then just doing the final vet, and us kind of taking a democratic approach on like, all right, who do we think, who do we want? So, and, but I think we made fantastic, choices in the end. So like,
I agree.
I think that everyone did a really, really great job. So I'm really proud of them. So
yeah, you did. They were just fantastic. And I get this is both of your debut feature. Is that correct?
Yes,
that's correct.
Okay, so Ryan, now is this the first theatrical showing? It's going to be this premiere on Wednesday. Is this like the first time it's going to be shown in front of an audience? Second.
Yeah.
All right. So
third.
So talk about the first time your words and Chai's words, your words were seen on screen in front of an audience. That's to me, that's as a music video director myself, when I see my vision on screen that people see, I mean, there's no words to say what it means to have an audience actually see what you kind of drummed up in your head. So what was that experience like for you the first time that you saw an audience actually watch it?
Yeah, we had a really special premiere. It was in Hollywood. It was our first one, and we got a bunch of family and friends to come out for it. And my parents surprised me actually.
Oh wow!
There and all that. Chai and I didn't even get to sit next to each other because it ended up being so crowded. So it was a really just cool experience. Like we had seen it plenty of times, but seeing it in that way, looking back at like various friends from various walks of life, my parents, like all that, it was a very cool night for sure.
How about you, Chai? How about you, Chai?
Yeah, so I also edited the film, so I saw it probably 1,000 times.
A million times, yeah.
And in all these different ways, but seeing it on the big screen is, it's hard to put into words, what a thrill it is.
Yeah.
And it just felt different, like as opposed to like just watching it on my laptop.
Yeah.
And like editing it there and just seeing it on the big screen and just seeing hearing it with a 5.1 and all that. And then, to know that if I just turn to the left, like there's an audience right there watching it with me, not me in the dark editing room.
Yeah.
And then just watching everyone's sort of reactions, to some of these moments, that happen, and like some of the, revelations that happen in the story and all that too.
Yeah.
And then just like seeing sort of people sort of physically have a reaction to it, just like, I don't want to see that or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, me, that was like a real,
you're like, yes.
right. Because
I
like,
anyway.
Yeah, so I was just like, yeah, because like we kind of just like stitched this thing together ourselves. We had obviously a team to kind of help us with the effects and stuff, but again, it just like at a low budget, but effective enough to kind of sell it and make it kind of look really real and all that. So it was a thrill just to be able to experience it with an audience, because like that's ultimately what we just want. We just want people to see it, and we're just really excited about it. So.
Yeah, the opening scene got some woos and claps, and the tone was set that day. People had to see it. Like, all right, here we go.
That's good.
That's cool.
Well, the TCL Chinese Theatre too. I mean, come on. I mean, major films have been premiered at that theater, and so this has got to be a thrill for you guys to have it shown there, and just from all the history of that theater in the past. I mean, all kinds of. I believe Purple Rain was even. That's my from Minneapolis. That's my guy Prince. They premiered it there. So I mean, come on, this is cool. So I can't wait to to see how that goes for you guys, and and also can we? I don't know what kind of social media you guys have. Can you kind of talk about that social media wise, like how people can go find information on the film and how they can go to see the screening if that's possible. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, to be honest with you, we haven't done a really good job at setting that up for the actual film.
Sure.
Because right now we're just in our festival run.
Okay.
And so we've kind of just been promoting it on my personal social media at this point. So I'm at Chai2K2. As far as the actual screening of the film, like I think you mentioned earlier, right? It was on Wednesday, September 10th, 9:30. We're in the block FFFF of the film festival. So it's sorry, I don't know if you mentioned this, but it was the Silicon Beach Film Festival that we're going to be screening at. So yeah, I mean, like if anyone is in LA, want to check it out, we'd love to have you. So it's a film that Ryan and I are really proud of. We put a lot into it, and it's great to hear that you had such a reaction to it.
I did.
And so and responded to it, and so that's what we hope everybody else will respond to as well.
Is there is a trailer on your social media as well?
Trailer is only on YouTube right now, so I can provide a link. I don't know.
Well, we could put it in our show notes. Okay, so if you want to, I think I have the link up here, but I'll put that in the show notes as well, so people can go see that. And another question that I have before we go, Ryan, when it comes to film festivals, because I know, I've had a couple things in film festivals too, but it seems like the last several years, there's been thousands of film festivals out there, which I think is amazing because you're able to get your work out there. So you have the Sundance and the Telluride, I don't know, these big ones, but for people that have projects out there, talk about the film festival circuit, because there's a lot of different opportunities for filmmakers to get their work out there. So how did you guys explore that, and how did you decide who you're going to send it to?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big part of our job after the film was done. We had a spreadsheet for it. I think ended up at like 63 or so film festivals. So, I mean, we spent a lot of time on Film Freeway doing a lot of research on the best ones. We kind of had like tiers, like of course the Sundances, the South by Southwest are up there, and then you go down to maybe Heartland and Indianapolis, and then you go down to maybe some of the smaller ones. But we kind of just have a mix of that. And we took some big swings with the big ones, and then, some of the medium and smalls as well. So it's very competitive. I mean, I think the average acceptance is under 10%, I believe. So we've gotten into 3 so far, and we still have, plenty out there that we're waiting on word from. So, I mean, we're proud of that because the odds are always super low. I know Silicon has like 380 films, for example.
Wow.
In there. So
I didn't realize it was that many.
Yeah. But then we were at one film festival. They only had 18 features total. So, it just depends on the festival, but we still feel very proud to get into, multiple ones so far, for sure. So, yeah,
for sure.
And then there is obviously work once you get in, trying to obviously, like we're doing now, drum up,
market it
people there. And beyond family and friends. So
yeah, for sure. Well, all my listeners, you got to check this out. I can't tell you how amazing this film was, and just everything from the acting to the writing to producing and just the cinematography and the editing, and you guys just did a knockout job, man. Congratulations on this piece, and best of luck on this film festival coming up here Wednesday, and can't wait to hear back how it went. Again, we'll share everything we can on our social media as well with our listeners, and hope to have you guys back sometime, and as this thing continues to grow, and can't wait to have you back on the show again.
That's great. Thanks, Dave. It's great for sure.
Thanks for having us.